Tarot, directed by Spenser Cohen and Halberg, stars Jacob Batalon and Avantika Vandanapu. The film follows a group of friends who recklessly violate the sacred rule of tarot readings. They unknowingly unleash a unspeakable evil trapped within the cursed cards. One by one, they come face to face with fate and end up in a race against death. I feel like this is a movie not many people know is coming out, as all we have for this movie in terms of its marketing are trailers alone, which isn't a testament to the quality of the movie, I would think, but it still managed to check it out, even if others chose not to. I'll start with what I thought about the performances in this movie first. While she isn't given too much to do in service of other characters, I thought Avantika was pretty good here. I can easily see her being suited to horror, and I think it would be cool to see her as a final girl someday, as she has some really good Scream Queen energy. Jacob Batalon definitely carries a lot of the more entertaining moments in the movie. He brings a lot of decent humor. While not absolutely every joke he tells sells, he's still definitely one of the highlights of the friend group, since all of the other characters are essentially just blank slates. I can't really remember anything about a lot of the other characters in the movie. Naturally, with this movie being a studio-made modern horror movie, it's riddled with jump scares galore. They are, in fairness, spread out to a degree to where it doesn't become too annoying. However, all of the jump scares that are performed in this movie are some of the most formulaic ones I've seen in quite a while. You will see every single one of them coming from a mile away. I'm very conflicted with one of the aspects of this movie, and I think I can vaguely talk about it as it's shown in some of the advertisements for the movie. Essentially, the premise sees these tarot cards being read out, and on these cards they have names with pictures of these creepy looking creatures on them. These creatures begin to come alive and are the cause of a lot of deaths in the movie. I'm conflicted. On one hand, I think some of the designs of these creatures are pretty cool looking when they're not on screen for too long, where you can see their visual effects. I particularly liked the designs of the Fool and the Magician. However, there's a part of me that wishes these creatures weren't in the film at all. There's an argument to be made that they cheat in this movie. As we see early on, it looks like they're making the deaths look like accidents. However, the movie goes on, we see them getting more involved. It's like they didn't know what to do with them. I feel like it would have worked better if these creatures were more cunning and made every single death look like accidents, or they shouldn't be in the movie at all, and all the deaths could still end up being accidents in vain of Final Destination, which when you watch the movie is already such a clear inspiration for this movie, it borders on being a clone of it. Another thing that bothered me particularly near the end was the lighting choices. Some of it in the movie is good, but there's some points where it gets way too dark, and I understand this could be a way to further show the movie's atmosphere, but it doesn't help when I can't see shit. Speaking of atmosphere, another thing that confused me more than anything was the movie's tone. The first 10 minutes of this movie is edited like a trailer. I swear to God, it's really jarring with so many bad cutting moments. There's an inconsistent tone for this part. I didn't know if this movie wanted to be a horror comedy when it started. That's how it felt, but as the movie went on and on, it became clear that it's taken its premise seriously, almost way too seriously, to the point where it's embarrassing. A premise like this should be a lot more fun, similar to how the movie started. I don't know why they decided to abandon this idea. It begs the question, why start the movie with a tone like this at all? This isn't going to be something I'll complain about, as it'll feel like I'm nitpicking, but I'll say it more as a warning. This is a very stupid movie. Not only do the characters make some pretty stupid decisions, but just a lot of the writing itself feels really dumb. They stop the movie to give a full breakdown of the movie's tarot cards lore, and it almost feels unneeded. It makes sense to add a motive to the whole thing, but again, I think I would have preferred the movie much more if they leaned into a fate angle and had all the deaths come from accidents or coincidence. Another thing that bothered me is when it comes to the death scenes in this movie. Despite only one or two deaths being memorable, I felt like because of the rating of the movie, the more gory aspects are really held back. There's times where deaths will end with an insert shot of something getting splattered with blood, so to cut away from any extra gore, which could have been interesting to see. I understand why this was done. This movie is clearly geared solely to teenagers, so you'd have younger ones coming in and you can't scare them off with too much excessive gore, but in the end it just makes the movie feel more corporate and sanitized. It really holds back, and that's not something you want from a horror movie. Overall, I didn't love this movie, but I didn't exactly hate it either. It's incredibly stupid. That has aspects which bring it down even more. Like I said, I think its biggest offender is just how seriously it takes its premise. This could have been a fun, messy little picture, but instead we get this goofy, bland, and even sometimes boring addition to modern horror. I'm giving Tarot 2.5 stars. While it's not one of the worst horrors I've seen, it's certainly one that won't be leaving a long impression. I'm happy I at least got to support the genre by seeing this movie on the big screen, which is something I'll still encourage you to do, even if you may come out of the theater feeling a sense of disappointment. But if you walk in knowing what to expect, like I did, then it doesn't call for a huge complaint. So it's not that great, but it's not incredibly awful either.